finished working on my classroom friendly mini book, and so far I've just been working with felt pens and also with colouring in pencils. And just to run over a couple of the techniques that I've used or you can use, if you're wanting to turn your normal felt pens into some watercolour, just grab yourself some kind of plastic. So I've got like a sheet divider from a folder here. I could in fact use the surface of my mat here. Little plastic bags, offcuts of laminating film, plastic, yogurt lids, anything like that's going to work. And all you need to do is have a tiny little bit of water, not much, or if you've got access to these water brushes, they'll do the job as well. Now, I've also got a little paintbrush. You probably don't have nice little glittery ones in your classroom, but you never know. And the only thing you're going to need to remember with this technique is that wherever you put your felt pen, and I'll put a little bit of white underneath so that you can see it a little bit more clearly. Put your felt pen down first before you add your water, because if you go and put your additional colours, and you can't quite, I'm a little bit off shot there. If you actually put these into water, you're going to ruin your felt pens. So you can add multiple colours. That one looks like it's ready to be soaked. Alright. So you scribble down your colour, pretending that it's paper, and then you add water, and you suddenly have a beautiful liquid watercolour. And I might just use it to add a few more little interesting marks in this design here. I'd actually worked on it with felt pen and then covered it all with water, so that's why it's all very feathered out. I don't have crisp edges is what I'm meaning. So I've added just a little bit of colour there. I can pick up a little bit of this purple that I've made, and I can go over my blue. Just keep in mind that because you've already got felt pen down, if you add a lot of water, it is going to actually make that all move. Alright, so I've added a little bit of pink and a little bit of blue, but I'm not really up to that point now. What I'm up to is adding the finer details. So I can just shift the water out, might be able to zoom in a little bit more. Alright, I'd really like to do something more here, and I've got a circular design, so what I might do is deepen up the little gaps between the circles, so adding a little bit more blue where there is already a pale blue to make those green circles pop out just a little bit more than they were. And I think I said earlier in the video, in hindsight, I wouldn't have had such big areas. I would have put my fingers on and traced my fingers on my hand a few more times to make some of these little bits a little bit smaller. Anyway, you get what you get and you don't get upset. So sometimes when things don't quite turn out the way you wanted, then you just come up with a way of solving the problem. I'm actually going to make that blue. So I'm actually changing my design a little, because let's face it, it's my design. I can do what I would like with it. It's a little bit more up here, so I'll go up there, maybe round that. I might go over these blues. The tricky part now is knowing when to stop, because you really can just keep going and going and going. And keep in mind that all of this is done with what you would normally be able to just get in a classroom or at home. I'm not using any special art resources with the exception maybe of my glitter paintbrush. So I'm just adding a few more details here. This kind of thing can be fun to do at night if you're working on one at home. And I feel like if I've done the dots like that, I'd actually like to do some dashes as well, just to add a little bit more to that one. Now the other thing I can do is go back to pencils. Now these circles are green. Just trying to think what I'd like to do. Maybe I don't want them to look too much like peas. No, no peas. No peas, please. These ones here are a little bit bluer, which is nice. I'm not sure if the camera is even picking up the change in colour there. Now once you fold this up, if you see something that's jumping out at you that you don't like, or you feel like is very vacant, it needs some more added to it, you can do it very, very easily. But it's just a little bit more difficult to add, especially when you're working with paints, to add more when the pages are only small. I could have left this one white. I haven't really left blank spaces for words. I really want this one to just be a big pop of colour. I'm looking in here, even though I've got yellow, pink, green, purple, blue, orange, brown, pinky red. I might actually put a little, no, is that too much the same? Just experimenting here. It could be a black or grey in here. So I'm just going to fill those in. And from this point on, I probably wouldn't add any more of the water. Just going to draw some circles, and you can be looking at my design here and going, oh no, why did she do that? Or gee, that's a great idea, she should do more of it. Like sometimes when you're that other person and you're looking in and you don't have a vested interest in the design, it's not something you've created, you can see things a little bit more clearly. It's probably why it's also a good idea sometimes to stop working on your artwork and step away for a little bit and have a look. Alright, so I'm going to call that finished, even though these are big areas. I'm looking at it. I put some tape on there. I'm looking at how it's going to fold. So that big green blue is going to be on 3 different pages, so it might just work out okay. Right, I'm going to pull these little bits off. Alright, I'm going to fold. Do I have more tape? I do. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to go up and under, up, under, up, under, up, under, up. Done. Alright, here we go. So up and under, up and under, up, under, under, and here we go. Now we need to glue our pieces together, and then we are ready to actually construct our cover. So it's always a lot easier to fold these and have them the way you want them when they're only one-sided. If you make these from out of a magazine, it can be a little bit trickier to work out which way you're meant to fold. So so just showing you here. You do have to concentrate a little bit about this bit. All right. A glue stick will be perfectly fine for this paper. When you're working with a thicker paper, like a 300 GSM paper, a glue stick doesn't always hold these pages together. You need something like a Sullivan's, something a little bit stronger. And again, if I was working with 300 GSM, then I would also, here we go, I've missed one, I would also want to peg these pieces together to make sure that they're all secure when they dry. So let's have a look. If you feel like you've got any edges showing or not quite glued, like I feel like that one, this one here needs a little bit more glue, you can do that before it's had time to dry. Alright, so I've got all that together. Ideally, I'd probably trim just a little bit off there. I just feel like it's just a fraction out of line, but it'll be okay. And again, with these smaller ones, working with the thinner paper, you don't really need to adhere tissue here and bind all of that together. Just using this glue will be perfectly fine. Notice I also did my gluing on a plastic sheet just to make sure it was a little bit neater. I didn't get glue all over my table. Now I want to decide what I want as my front and what I want as my back. I think I like that one better as a first page. Although this one I could put some words easily. Okay, I might go this one. So I'm just going to put on here an arrow, and I'm going to put a front. So I could just put F, T and B, front, top, bottom. Anyway, now we want to choose a cover. Now I could easily chop up other paintings that I'm working on. I do want to sort of have a bit of a look. I've got just about every colour in here, so I think almost anything would go. These are some that I've just started working on, so I'm going to keep those. I think here are some of the other things that I've collected. This box had, I believe, a mug in it. It did. It had a mug, so that was the casing off that. I've cut off, that was a cut off of a watercolor painting. These are the coffee cups that I've shown you. They all work. This one here was a tote bag by the wonderful Brooke Sutton. So I could possibly use some of hers. I've got a lovely thank you card from Shani Sutton. Save that for another day. And of course, tissue boxes are fantastic. So this one here is empty. I can just get my fingernail in underneath and open it up. And I've got this that I can work with. The only thing with some tissue boxes, like these ones with the koala and the cockatoo, you have to be really careful that you can actually fit the front and back on. Like for example, if that one was the front, I wouldn't have enough room for the back, but here and here I might. You just have to do what's called fussy cutting. You can't just stick it on anywhere and chop it out. I think it's going to be a little bit trickier to actually get a koala without ending up with bits of koala everywhere. And then this one here is an interesting one, and again, you probably don't want it all black. You would want most of your kangaroo on the front, but would that be enough for the back? It wouldn't. So looking at it this way, if that was the front, you're just not going to fit it in. So this one isn't going to be a good fit for what we're actually after. This one will be. So I'm going to zoom out just a fraction. Alright, and I had my scissors here somewhere. I'm just going to cut straight down. I'm only going to need one panel, so I'm going to cut that off. I know I'm not going to need these little tabs. They can also come off. They're great for spreading glue. You've got sticky pasty glue. Alright, now these edges should be pretty well square because it's a commercially made box, and they are. Now I've got, I'll turn it so that you can't see the work, so that's not distracting for you. I'll come in again just a little bit. Alright, so here's our front, here's our back. And basically we're going to be gluing this onto it. So I can actually move this around to see what part of the design I would really like. Now, if you're having trouble imagining that, you can very easily lay your book on a piece of plastic, cut it a fraction bigger than your book, and this probably won't be as easy for you to see, I'm not sure, but now I can even fold a line in here. Look, I can crease a line, can even cut little marks for myself. Now I know that this is the front. Okay, that's my front, this is my back, and I'm just going to move it around so I can just get this cockatoo on. However, not all of him will be on the front cover. We'll end up with a lot more of the leaf, but he could work. I could go here, but he's chopped off, or here. I think I'm going to go here, roughly here. So I'm just going to grab a pencil and put my little template there and go roughly, it's there. I'm going to give myself a little bit more room. Okay, now I can use my little cutter here for cutting on my lines, but if you don't have one of those, you can get your ruler, and I'm just going to line up the marks that I made. Here we go, lining that one up with the 10. It's that way. And I'm going to line this one up. So I've got a line here for my book, but I'm also looking at the lines on my pink mat. Just makes it a little bit easier. Alright, and this is, as I said, what you call fussy cutting. So I'm ending up with lots of offcuts that I don't need and I don't want. And now this piece here is going to actually cover my book. It's going to fit with excess. Alrighty. So I'm going to bring that up. So I'm just working out roughly where the middle is. So I'm going to go just one side of the middle and just a little bit on the other side, because that's roughly the thickness of my book. Now I want to fold it on that. Sometimes it's easier if you actually bend it on your ruler. So I've lined that up. And then swivel it around, line up the other side. And then you can just make sure that you've creased this spine really well. You'll find this a little bit harder because it's a lot thicker than the paper. Alright, now when we want to put this in, you're going to have to decide how much extra do you want between your page and the edge of the cardboard. How much do you want visible? Now for me that's probably about right when I close it, but the top and bottom I think is showing a little bit too much, so I'm going to trim that down. I'm actually going to do it by eye, so hopefully I did that okay. Now I also need to make sure I've got my front with my front, and then I like to have a look at what my inside pages look like and also my cover, and decide on a color that can go around the edges. And I really don't think it's going to matter if I just use this blue in this instance. So what I'm going to do is run around the outside edges of the cover. You can do this after it's glued in, but sometimes, depending on the glue you use, the glue won't want to actually take the felt pen. It will just keep sliding off in the same way as it slides off a plastic. So it's easier to do that now. You can also run your pen along that edge. I slipped a few times. If you slip, it will rub off on one of these because there's a tissue box has a gloss to it. I'll just show you that. So I've accidentally scribbled on it and it will just rub off. Okay, now we're ready for the gluing. So I'm just going to put glue on the front cover first. There we go. Just slip it in. Hang on. That, yes, I did decide I was going to have that as the front, didn't I? Yes, I second guessed myself then. So I'm just going to position it where I want it. Open it up, and I'm going to put glue on my back cover and then very carefully close it. And now we have our very own little art journal, our little mini book. Alright, I've been giving it a little bit more thought on what I would like to do with wording on this book, because I do think I'd like to put something. On this one here, I cut out words from magazines and glued it on. So, real freedom with art is what that one says. Here I have a whole heap of sayings and words that I've either printed out myself or I've purchased a sheet full of sayings, and then I have actually printed them out myself onto photocopying paper, and then I could cut them out and glue them. An even simpler way is to purchase sayings that are already on, already have a sticky backing. So basically they're little phrases and words that are stickers. So I was sort of looking at maybe these colours might go. And then I have one other alternative, and I'll flip it over so that hopefully you can see. It's very, very small, and you do have to watch the spelling, but I've got quite a number of nail art decals. So some of them are just little flowers and pictures. Some of them just have little designs. And then I've also got a collection that have words on them. So I'm kind of thinking that I might use some of these. For example, there's one here that says be happy and smile. That could be nice underneath the beak of the cockatoo. So anyway, I'm just going to have a play now and see what I think's going to work in this book and what I'd really like it to say. So one thing you do have to be careful of if you're going to use the nail art decals is that you can get a little shine from the plastic that it's on. But anyway, I'm really happy with this. It says be happy and smile. See possibility everywhere. Hold on tight to your dreams. Collect beautiful moments. A dream is a wish your heart makes. Stronger than yesterday. Creativity takes courage. Miracles happen. Believe. Find joy in the ordinary. By Jen Skinner. Ta-da! All done.